Okay, let's jump straight into our first source today. It's an analysis looking at the global fight against terror, kind of using that recent Pahalgam attack as a starting point.
Yeah, and the author, T.S. Tirumooti, makes a strong case that the international response is, well, pretty fragmented now.
Fragmented is a good word. What really jumps out is how different the reactions were, isn't it?
Absolutely. You have the U.S., Secretary Rubio, VP Vance, basically calling for restraint from both India and Pakistan, almost putting them on the same level.
Right, which feels different.
And then Russia, Lavrov, just talks about bilateral political solutions, no real condemnation.
Yeah.
And the EU, Kashak Kavalis, apparently hesitant to even call it terrorism straight up. It really shows how far we've moved from any kind of unified front.
It does. It feels like a long way from that zero tolerance idea we heard so much about years ago.
Exactly.
Tirumurti points out that now India is being asked for proof of Pakistan's involvement. It seems to sort of ignore history like Pulwama or 2611.
Well, yeah. And why is this happening? I mean, the article suggests a few things. Maybe fatigue with conflicts in Asia after Ukraine, Gaza.
That makes sense. Conflict fatigue.
Plus Pakistan's own anxieties about things getting back to normal in Jammu and Kashmir.
Okay.
But maybe the biggest thing is this return to, the my terrorist, your terrorist problem global.
We're seeing that elsewhere, too.
Seems like it. Europe focusing on right-wing extremism, the U.S. under Biden on REMVE, that's racially and ethnically motivated violent extremism, the OIC focusing on Islamophobia, sometimes seeming to, excuse terror.
And Canada.
Canada's stance on freedom of expression, even with anti-India threats. And China consistently blocking efforts at the UN to blacklist Pakistan-based terrorists. It's a messy picture.
It really is. And the article brings up how India gets treated differently, linked to this nuclear war narrative Pakistan pushed.
Yeah, that narrative seems quite abductive, unfortunately. It creates a different standard compared to, say, how the world reacted to Russia and Ukraine, even though Modi himself spoke out against using nuclear weapons.
And the targeting in Pahalgam was specifically religious, wasn't it? Hindus.
Yes, and the article notes the silence on Hinduphobia compared to global reactions to Islamophobia or anti-Semitism. Tulsi Gabbard called it Islamist terrorism targeting Hindus, which highlights that disparity.
Any positives?
Well, the extradition of Tahor Rana is mentioned as a silver lining, but David Headley is still in the U.S., so mixed signals.
And Pakistan using the UNSC.
Right, trying to raise regional tensions like after Article 370. They even brought up the Indus Waters Treaty, trying to draw parallels with the Ethiopia-Egypt dam issue.
Did it work?
Doesn't seem like it. No outcome documents suggesting the P5 mostly see Kashmir as bilateral, except China, of course.
So the author's final call.
It's pretty clear India's partners need to demand accountability from Pakistan, maybe more international pressure, sanctions, and India might need to act more unilaterally, maybe even lead on countering religiophobia against non-Abrahamic faiths.
Okay, let's switch gears. Source 2 deals with judicial accountability in India. This was triggered by the vice president's comments, right? Saying the judiciary is like a super parliament.
Exactly. He questioned their accountability, but this author pushes back quite strongly.
How so?
Well, the argument is, yes, Parliament is supreme because of popular sovereignty, the will of the people, but the Constitution intentionally gives the judiciary power.
Why?
To prevent arbitrary government action, to act as a check. They reference the L. Chandra Kumar case from '97. It reinforced this idea of separation of powers.
So the judiciary is accountable, according to this piece.
Yes, through the Constitution itself. There's a process for removing judges for proved misbehavior, which includes violating the Constitution. That's accountability.
What about the VP's point that the judiciary can't direct the president?
The author acknowledges the president's role as head of state, executive armed forces chief, part of parliament. But crucially, even the president is under the Constitution, reflecting popular sovereignty.
So setting time limits for the president to approve bills.
Isn't judicial overreach, the author argues. It's actually upholding popular sovereignty by preventing the people's will, expressed through parliament, from being stalled indefinitely.
Okay, I see the logic there.
And the idea that the law doesn't apply to judges, the author basically says that's wrong. The rule of law flows from the Constitution, which is supreme over everyone. Judges are bound by it and, again, can be removed if they violate it.
Plus, Parliament can change laws if they disagree with a court ruling.
Exactly. That's another aspect of popular sovereignty in action. It's a balance.
So the judiciary's power isn't about being above the law, but about upholding it.
Precisely. Reviewing state actions, protecting rights, that's its job. The author even mentions Article 142, the Supreme Court's power to ensure complete justice when there isn't a specific law covering something.
And the conclusion.
It's a plea, really, for everyone in authority, and citizens too, to adopt a more liberal, democratic mindset, especially when times are tough, to avoid actions that harm the Constitution.
Right. Let's move to our third source, politics and legal troubles. Reddy getting a 7-year sentence. That sounds serious for his career.
Oh, definitely. The piece frames it as potentially the final chapter after a career full of, well, comebacks and big falls. It's the Abulapuram illegal mining case.
What are people saying about it?
You get some strong reactions. Nora Bharath Reddy, an MLA from Bellary, calls it divine justice, especially given the allegations about Reddy trying to mine in Karnataka territory.
An activist.
S.R. Hiremath, a well-known anti-mining activist, called it a significant milestone. He hopes other cases against Reddy will also lead to convictions and wants the BJP to remove him from the assembly.
There are other cases pending.
Apparently so. Another miner mentioned, Tapal Ganesh, talked about huge amounts of iron ore, maybe 20-30 lakh tons, allegedly mined illegally in Karnataka using an Andhra Pradesh permit. He criticized the Karnataka government for not pursuing other cases more strongly.
Reddy had tried to get back into politics recently, hadn't he?
Yeah, he launched his own party, the KRPP, before the 2023 elections. He actually won a seat himself, though his wife lost. Then he went back to the BJP.
And he was allowed back in Bellary.
The Supreme Court gave him some relief on that front. He even led a BJP by-election campaign in Sander recently.
How did that go?
They lost, and apparently that strained his relationship with his ally, B. Sriramulu.
So this conviction now.
Seems like a really decisive blow, as the article puts it. It probably takes him out of electoral politics for a good while, and it just brings all those mining scam and corruption memories back to the surface, hurting any comeback narrative.
Okay, shifting continents now. Canada. Source 4 looks at the recent election result and, surprisingly, Donald Trump's influence.
Yeah, it's quite a story. The Liberals, under their new leader, Mark Carney, pulled off a big reversal.
Weren't they expected to lose? Under Trudeau, things looked tough.
They did. But this article argues that a lot of the shift was down to, quote, Trump's bullying of Mr. Trudeau. Things like tariffs, even threats about annexation.
Really? Annexation threats?
Apparently so. And it seemed to fire up Canadian nationalism. They even mention a rise in Canadiano feeling.
Wow. So how did the numbers change? The Conservatives were leading, right?
Yeah, Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives had a big lead in the polls initially, but in the end, the Liberals actually gained vote share, about 2.4%.
And the new Liberal leader, Mark Carney, he called a snap election.
He did, shortly after taking over. Carney, former head of the Bank of Canada and Bank of England, framed it basically as a vote on Canadian sovereignty against the madman south of their border.
Clever framing. Did the Conservatives try to link him to Trudeau?
They tried the just like Justin line, but Carney worked to differentiate himself, and the whole Trump-Magé connection seemed to hurt Poilievre more than it helped.
How so?
He got labeled maple syrup, Mag-J, comparisons were drawn, and ultimately Poilievre even lost his own seat. There's a mention that Trump apparently said Poilievre wasn't Mags enough.
Interesting. So Trump's influence was negative for the Canadian right?
It seems that way in this election. And you also saw consolidation on the left. The NDP lost significant vote share, the Greens were strategic, and it all seemed to benefit the Liberals as Carney played the nationalism card.
An ideological role reversal, the article calls it. Liberals talking nationalism, Conservatives talking economics.
Pretty much. And it mentions a similar Trump effect in Australia recently, too.
What about India-Canada relations? Trudeau's accusations in 2023 caused a lot of tension.
Right. But the article notes that both Carney and Poilievre indicated they wanted to improve ties with India. So maybe a potential reset on the horizon there, regardless of the outcome specifics.
Okay, fascinating stuff. Finally, let's look at our last source. Urban birds and their colors.
Yes, this is a cool study from researchers in Spain and Germany. We know city noise affects birdsong, but this looks at their appearance.
What did they find? Something unexpected, I gather.
Totally unexpected, yeah. The species that do well in cities tend to be more colorful. The less successful ones are often, well, brown.
More colorful. That goes against what you might think, right? Like cities would make everything drabber.
Exactly. It challenges the urban color homogenization hypothesis. When you actually look at the variety of species, cities have more color-diverse bird communities, not less.
Huh. And what about differences between males and females? Does that change?
Doesn't seem to. The study found no evidence that sexual selection, which often drives those bright colors in males, gets weaker in cities. The color differences persist.
So why are brighter birds doing better in cities? Is it about pollution?
They considered that. Darker colors from melanin might help in polluted areas, but the most consistent finding wasn't about dark colors. It was the decline of brown plumage in successful city birds.
Brown's usually good for camouflage, isn't it?
In forests, yes, great camouflage in the understory, but maybe less useful against asphalt, concrete, buildings, the complex city environment.
So brown loses its advantage. But why the preference for bright colors? Do we know?
Not definitively. The article suggests maybe lower predation risk in cities is a possibility, fewer hawks perhaps. But it's complex food, light, nesting spots, predators all interact.
So cities are like an evolutionary laboratory.
That's the phrase they use. We're seeing adaptation happen right in front of us. It tells us about survival, how adaptable life can be.
It gives a whole new meaning to urban wildlife.
It does. Cities host a different kind of avian beauty. And understanding these subtle color shifts, even if we don't fully grasp why yet, could help us design cities that are better for more species.
Yeah, just birds.
Right. They suggest looking at insects, mammals too. There's a lot more to figure out about how life adapts to our urban world.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground: global terror responses, judicial debates, political fortunes, election dynamics, and even bird colors in cities. Quite the mix.
Definitely shows how interconnected and sometimes surprising things can be.
So for you listening, think about this. We've seen nationalism shift, accountability debated, and even evolution happening in our backyards. How do these different threads, these seemingly separate stories, weave together in your understanding of the world today? What other connections jump out at you?